Do you have a productivity system in place? If not, you might want to consider looking into the tools that you use and how you can optimize so that you have less friction and you can get straight to what you need to get done sooner. What's up, friends? Welcome to The Beautiful Mess, where we talk about tools and tactics to improve your life. I'm your host, Paul Didis, a YouTuber, content creator, and podcaster, and super excited to be talking to you today about productivity systems and how you can be a minimalist with them, and how it's so important that less, if you can do with less, can be more, but you also have to be careful not to reduce the number of tools that causes you to miss things, or it ends up being a poorer output. So it's a fine balance between the two, because if you end up switching tools to something that's simpler, but it doesn't do things as well, you could end up worse off. So I thought we'd start off kind of talking about some of the systems that I use right now and what basically the outline of a productivity system looks like. So first off, you probably want a task manager or a to-do list, just so you can quickly jot down anything that comes to mind when you're on the go, because, you know, oftentimes when you're on the go, like you just need some place where you can just put it down. That could be a piece of paper, that could be a digital tool. I kind of am leaning more towards recommending a digital tool. That way, if you're in some place that you don't have a pen or paper, you can just quickly jot it down on your digital tool. The other thing that I will say is that you might need a project manager. And this is up to you. Often if you're working in a business, you know what a project management tool is. So it's kind of like a to-do list for a bigger project. I've used to do project management tools for even my family. Sometimes that can be helpful. Recently, we actually switched back to using a to-do list app, which honestly, it just depends what your needs are. But both are good. It just depends on your context. Sometimes a project management tool can be a little bit more complicated. So just keep that in mind with whoever you're using it. I think it's so important to find a tool that you enjoy using, a tool that you can easily get into and start working and realize, like, okay, see the things that you need to get done in a priority list. So personally, right now for to-do lists, I'm using TickTick for my own personal, and then also for our family, we use TickTick to kind of jot down those items that need to be done, like doing the laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, you name it. It's just a great place to quickly get in there, write down what it is, and be on your way. But then for those bigger items, I like to use right now ClickUp, which is a project management tool, and it does a ton of different things. So don't get lost in the plethora of features. So sometimes the plethora of features can equal more friction. And so again, you want to reduce the amount of friction it is before you can sit down and get things done. Obviously, capture as much data as you need to get done. But if it doesn't aid you getting the stuff done, then it's probably becoming too much friction. I've used other tools to do these kinds of things. For example, another tool that you might consider is something like Notion or Asana. The only problem I have with Notion is that it doesn't really have a great task management system in place. I do love the databases. I would say it's like a website for your life, or a Wikipedia and database for your life. So you can just have, like, you know, and this is something to consider, is having standard operations processes. So writing those down so that whenever you do something that you repeat all the time, or if you even want to outsource it, or there's one week that you can't do it, you can easily give it to someone else and they can see, okay, this is a procedure that you follow. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's there for me if I need it. Okay, so that's a project management tools. And then you're going to need like a note-taking tool. And for me right now, Apple Notes is probably my favorite, just because it's so simple to use. Like, you just open the app, you can write. It's just like frictionless. Whereas I've tried using Notion for this, and it's good. It's a great app, but like there's too much friction. especially if you start adding like the different elements that you can add, like does it have a category? Does it have a tag? That's where, that friction could be the difference between you sitting down and getting something done. Like if your goal is to just write, maybe consider reducing the amount of friction to just starting. Maybe use something very simple like Apple Notes. Having the right tool for the job can make a big difference. Okay, so that's note taking. Next up, you have your calendar app or your daily planning app. So right now, I'm a big fan of Sunsama. I've been checking out this app and it's fantastic. The user interface is just so good. Like you just, it just streamlines the process of planning your day, but also keeps it realistic. It's because like the problem with to-do lists, like I said in the last episode, is that you often, can just list out a ton of stuff and you might not actually get done all those things. And you might end up getting frustrated by the fact that you've got all those things on your list, but you haven't gotten to them yet. So having a kind of like a calendar or a daily planner that can allow you to schedule in those times for those important things. Again, I recommend having 3 to 5 primary things that you might schedule on your calendar. Don't make it, it's up to you. I'm not the kind of person that really enjoys going too granular. What I find is that when I go too granular, I end up getting frustrated. So again, the friction aspect, because it's like, do I really need to schedule in like a 30-minute, 15-minute task? Maybe not, depending on what's going on. But anything that's time related should end up in your calendar, even if it's short. That way, you know what time you need to be at a certain place or meeting with somebody. It's just super helpful to have one place where you can go and know this is where I should be at this time. And so that's the calendar system. Again, Sunsama is a great tool for planning out your day. It allows you to kind of see at a glance, kind of like a progress bar of how your day is going, how much time is left. So be sure to check that one out. I think I have a 30-day because of my affiliate link. So if you want to check it out, I probably will leave a link in the description. So be sure to do that because otherwise it's like a 14-day trial on their website. So if you want to try it for an entire month, it is a little bit more pricey. I will say that, but so far it's been a great tool. So if you have the money for it and you enjoy using it, by all means, check it out, because if it can help you get more done or the right things done, that could be a big help for you. Okay. And then this one might not be something that you think about necessarily all the time, but man, this can save you a ton of time down the road if you do this right. So I'm talking about a file storage system. So I want you to think of all the files that you have right now. Where are they located? Are they all nicely tucked away in a cloud storage? Are they on your physical hard drive? Do you have them backed up? Because if you don't have a system in place for backing up or storing your data, I highly recommend that you implement something, because data loss is real and it hurts. I'll tell you, just recently I had a web server, just the company, like the web hosting company, just like reached out and said, basically we, like the site just wouldn't load. And I was like, what happened? So I looked up and finally they told us that there was like a 0-day exploit where basically someone came into the servers and just completely wiped them, like nothing left. And out of the couple servers that they had, there was one server that they couldn't recover. And unfortunately that was mine. And I lost 4 websites. And the amount of time and energy that went into building those websites is really frustrating. So going forward, I'm going to be sure to have a backup system for all of these things so that if something happens like that again, I've got some things that I could probably use to rebuild them a little bit faster, but it's just, again, it's just going to take a little bit of time and energy. And I even had some backups, but they were on that server. And so that's the other thing, is that you want to have a 3-2-1 system. This is what they recommend in the IT world, is that you want to have 3 copies of data, 2 that are local, I believe, and then 1 that's off-site, so that if there's a flood or something happened, you still have that 1 data point off-site, and the likelihood of 3 things corrupting is very minimal. And there's different ways to do this. One thing I recommend is the service called Backblaze. So if you don't have it, it's about $70 a month. And the amazing thing about it is that sorry, not $70 a month. That would be crazy. $70 a year. And this is the kicker, is that they have basically unlimited storage for anything, like even hard drives that are plugged into it. I don't know if they're going to change their pricing. So as of right now, that's what it is. But you can like plug your hard drive into your computer and it will back it up. But I think you just have to remember to plug it in, because I think if it's outside of like 30 days, I think they give you a 30-day window to make sure you plug it back in. It will, I guess, take it off the server or something. But it's been really great so far. It's actually backing up. I've got a couple terabytes, so it's taking a little bit to get it all backed up. But it's nice having that peace of mind, knowing that if something happened, I've got it all in the cloud or at Backblaze, wherever they store it. And so it's nice just knowing that, so that if something were to happen to one of my hard drives, it's there. And then I also use Google Drive, Google Workspace for my work email. And then also for just my storage, they have like a great pricing for their Google Workspace. Their plans inside of just like regular Gmail, I don't think are as cost effective, but to get the whole G Suite and 2 terabytes of data for, I think right now it's like $12 a month. That's not bad. So if you have a business or just need a 2 terabyte space and you want to use a custom domain, Google Workspace is potentially a good option for you. And so, yeah, just have a backup plan. And the other thing is just having a file storage system in place so that you can easily search for files. You can easily click through folders to find your files, and there's less friction involved. So what I like to do with my personal life files, folders, is I will have kind of like this file cabinet. And so under the file cabinet, I'll have each year, kind of like you would in a regular filing cabinet. And then under each year, I'll break it down even further. That way, the biggest thing I want to avoid is clutter, because there's nothing worse than opening up a folder and it's got like 1,000 different things and you have no idea where they go or what they're for. I like to keep things orderly. And so I do the system. So basically file cabinet, year, and then in the year, I might have like 2021 business, 2022 expenses. And the thing about attaching the year again inside of the folder is that way when you search, you don't see like 20 expenses folders and they all look the same. It's like, okay, I can see like if I search expenses, there's 2022 expenses. That's what I need. Boom, I'm in there. It just makes life a little bit simpler. So just have a filing naming convention and stick with it. That way down the road, it'll be easier for you. Try to name things based on overarching principles. Like if you have clients, that's a great way to divide things so that you can easily access everything that's for that client. Or alternatively, for certain things like invoices, you might just have a general folder with all the invoices, and then you'll just you'll kind of tag the file name accordingly so that you can easily access it. One thing for file naming that I recommend is keeping it as short as possible, but at the same time, having as much detail as you need so that you can easily identify what version of a file it is and not just have like the final version. It's just so helpful to have the indicators that you recognize and can easily determine right away. So a good file naming convention is first having the date in like, I think it's like the worldwide format where it's like 2022. And you can either have a dash or no dash, and then 09 for the month. And then you have the day. So 21 is the day that I'm recording it. So 2022, 09, 21. I personally like to have the dashes in there just so it's easier to read. And then I usually put an underscore so I can easily see there's all the dates. Underscore. After underscore, I'll put down just like the basic keywords that I need to. Or what you could do if it's like in a folder where you have multiple kinds of things, you might put like a identifier, like a grouping identifier. So like if it was clients, I might put like their initials or a whatever is most important. Try to put that next, because then if you have a bunch of files and there's a bunch of those, you can quickly see them grouped together. So it just depends how you want to name it. You could actually put the keyword before the date, just depending on what kind of files you have, if that's more important for organization. But for the most part, I typically do the date so that I can easily find the version, especially with video editing. You might have multiple versions. That's the other thing, is if you're working with files and you have versions, it's helpful to have a good system. So like I'll do the keyword thing and then do another underscore and then put the identifier. So like maybe it's version. So V01. So I usually like to start with 01 just in case I go up to 20 something or 99. So that's kind of helpful to have. And then you might do underscore final if there's actually a final, but don't do like underscore final. That just doesn't make sense. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Keep your filing structure nice and clean. That way, if you ever need to share something with somebody or just for yourself, if you need to find something, it'll be a lot easier on you. Obviously, search is a great thing. When you have especially like Google Drive, their search, just like their web search, is great. So maybe that's something to keep in mind, is just having a simple system. And again, like simplicity is key. You don't want to be introducing tools just for the sake of introducing tools. I'm actually exploring this in my own business right now, is finding ways to streamline processes and reduce the number of tools when possible. Because when you need to switch between like 20 different tools, obviously that takes time and energy. But then again, like you just have to realize that there are certain tools that are good for certain things. For example, Logic Pro is great for editing music. But think software like ClickUp is great for managing tasks. They don't do the same things, but they both serve a purpose. So understanding what you need to get your work done in a timely fashion is very important. And that way you stay organized and efficient, but also just practical. Like, what does your workflow look like? Maybe take time to like spell it out. Just like write down, okay, for this process, and this is again like writing out your standard operations of operation processes. So you just list out kind of like the steps that you take to do a certain task. Maybe you realize that there's steps in there that you can eliminate altogether. That's always great. Save yourself some time and some energy. I've definitely realized that sometimes I've introduced steps that weren't necessary, but are necessary in other cases. For example, with the podcast, I've reduced the number of folders. For a video project, I like to keep those folders very clean. But when it's something like a video podcast where there's not as many assets, like I'm not going to be working with as many sound effects or graphics, so it's a lot simpler of a process. Whereas with like a whole video project, I like to keep it nice and organized, where I have a folder for everything, music, sound effects, you name it. One other thing, suggestion for the filing system is, especially if you're a creator, you might want to consider having an assets folder. So I typically do like an underscore assets, and that way it goes to the top. I picked that up from my prior boss. Like basically he would do this, and it was just like a really convenient way to like reduce the number of things in your main folder. So like that could be things like your original files, the project files, and within that, again, sometimes I create like a folder structure. Just depends on your project and what you're working on. Maybe you have like a whole assets folder for like just your creative process, like things that you go back to all the time, that is just helpful to have around. So that could be a use that you have for it. Yeah. Whew. But yeah, that's like basically the idea is like just kind of be a little bit more minimalistic with your technology, because less is often better. I'm a big tech fan. I don't know if I'll ever lose this bug of loving to try out new things. Maybe that's my thing for you, is I'll try it out first, so you know whether or not you need it or should try it out. Yeah, but it's been real, friends. Thanks so much for being part of the Messy fam. If you want to rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, you name it. Basically all social platforms. We should be there. If we're not, let me know. Until next time, my friends, stay messy.